Hi again. This short video is about Frederick Taylor, the father of scientific management. The title is interesting because that's what he called himself, but in fact, he probably is the person who had the most influence on manufacturing in the United States, at least, a century ago during the rapid industrialization period. So, let's talk about him a little bit here. Again, Frederick Taylor's writing in the mid-1800s, late 1800s, 1890 to 1910 or so. During that same period of time, America was evolving from small craft-related businesses to heavy industry in large cities. A lot of steel bridges were built, all kinds of railroads were being built, major kind of building projects were going on. But the American labor force itself was very unskilled. Many didn't speak English, and there were a lot of labor issues. The labor movement was beginning to evolve in the U.S. a little later than it had in Europe. And so, for example, the Pullman strike, which was a very bloody strike related to Pullman train cars, was right during that same period of time. Frederick Taylor in this comes into this as the son of a very religious family, not a particularly physically healthy person, who got involved in engineering work, and ended up having some very strong convictions about how to do things. One of those convictions that he's most well known for is the phrase "the one best way." There should be one best way of doing every kind of task that you have. What's interesting about Taylor is that he is often seen as working for management, but in his mind, he was really trying to create an environment in which workers could flourish and get paid better than what they were in the past. In any case, after he developed this theory, he shifted from working in leadership organizations to writing and consulting about that work. His writing is interesting because his workshops always include the story of the guy named Schmidt. Schmidt is a made-up name for a real person in eastern Pennsylvania. He was characterized as being big and dumb, and he's a person who seemed to be able to handle very structured, heavy work and do it day in and day out very comfortably. Schmidt actually is known for having jogged home from work after a hard day's worth of work and built himself a house and other kind of things based on his increased earnings under Taylor's system. In this whole set of workshops, Taylor was one who often then said, "I'm the founder of scientific management." A note that's not on my PowerPoint there is that Taylor saw it as being very important to break individuals out from the mold of their group experience, because he thought the group would always slow down work for a variety of reasons. And he called that slow down soldiering, which probably is not a very complimentary phrase for many people, but that's what he used. As he talked and wrote and became very well known, there began to be Taylor societies all over the U.S., particularly, maybe some other parts of the world too, where people would get together and talk about how do we make our workplaces more efficient. On the other hand, there were congressional hearings about whether he was engaging in worker abuse. So depends who you see on this one to how you evaluate him. He was certainly a cult hero for some people. In fact, one of the stories I'll tell you very briefly that is not in the book because it came later is Taylor was known as being a rather grumpy person. And a young scholar, I imagine someone in his 20s, read Taylor's work and was impressed by it and sent him a letter saying, "I've read your work. It is really fantastic. I think you've got all kinds of things to offer. you could make the whole world a better place if people all followed your guidelines. And I can imagine your way of working as becoming almost a new religion. Bit of an over-the-top praise. In any case, Taylor responded back to the young man, "You're not far from the truth." Sounded a little bit like some of Jesus's phrases, but it was interesting to see him sort of responding very well to hero worship. In whatever case, his approach was adopted and modified by major companies like Ford with the assembly line and National Cash Register with the first scripted sales structure that people were schooled in exactly how to respond to every question. So that was 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago. Taylor's legacy is still very strong. Anyone who's been around manufacturing for the last 20, 30 years knows there have been books about re-engineering. There are consultants you can get in to come in how to define work in your workplace. Organizations have detailed operations manuals specifying exactly how to do things. We all have received scripted phone calls. And the distinction Taylor made between those doing the work and those telling them how to do the work is still with us today. I think some places are challenging that, but that's still part of what we got there. So you're reading another sort of classic from a person who really shaped how we see the world of work. And even if we don't use Taylor's exact language anymore, his way of thinking is with us today. Have fun with Taylor.